You're listening to Quorum Radio
on WRMI 100,000 watts of freedom.
WRMI Quorum Radio now on with a very, very much awaited guest, and that's Janice McAfee. If that name rings a bell, it's probably because she's the widow of the late businessman, presidential candidate, software executive, and international adventurer John McAfee. She met John in 2012, and they married in 2013. What then followed was 8 years of international travel and flight from authorities who were pressuring John McAfee to return to the U.S., where he was charged with tax evasion. Any other charges besides that, Janice?
There was something that came up with the SEC, but I think that was just a way for them to make sure that they got him in custody. So I don't.
They wanted to get their man.
Yeah, they wanted to make sure. Well, because we were in Spain at the time, so
yeah,
income tax things are not so serious. But once the SEC filed their charges, then of course that made it more serious and more likely that Spain would then turn him over. So.
But you said the SEC, like Securities and Exchange Commission? Okay, because there's an FEC having to do with elections, and John was involved as a presidential candidate. So, okay. All right, good. So on June 23rd, 2021, John McAfee was found dead in a Spanish prison cell shortly after the Spanish National Court ordered his extradition to the United States for tax violation charges. Now, in a tweet from 2019, John McAfee kind of sort of planted the seeds for future conspiracy theories and controversy that would, of course, take off after his death 2 years later, when he stated, if I suicide myself, I didn't. I was whacked. Janice is here to tell her story and John McAfee's story. It's great to have you on Quorum Radio. And by the way, I want to thank Monty Munford for helping you set this up.
So, yeah, thanks, Monty.
He was a friend. He was a friend of yours, I guess, and a friend of the late John McAfee. My gosh, you've had quite an adventure. And that's one thing. He's John McAfee, and then Janice McAfee. By definition, you both became international adventurers. That's an understatement, right?
Yeah, definitely an understatement for sure.
I heard something kind of hilarious that John said that you became an international prison connoisseur.
Actually, yes, we only were in prison in the Dominican Republic together, but being on the run and hunted, I guess, yes, definitely was an introduction to that. So yeah, I'm quite familiar.
Wow, yeah. So how many years were you together with John in the United States, and how many years were you together with John outside the United States?
So we left America in January 2019. So up until that point, we were in America. So from December 2012 to January 2019, we were in America and traveling for different events that he was speaking at. And then we officially left America January 2019 and been at first we were kind of bouncing around the Caribbean. We went to the Bahamas first because there is no income tax there. And because that's what he was wanted for, they couldn't extradite him from there. So they tried other illegal means to collect him. Then we left there and went to Cuba for obvious reasons, because of the Cuban-American relationship. There is none. So obviously there wasn't going to be a problem with extradition there. However, America began pressuring the Cuban government or people that had authority to say so to send us back to America or kick us out of Cuba. And so they gave us a warning and told us, we had 3 days to leave Cuba. So we did that and we ended up in the Dominican Republic. And after a short stay there, uncomfortable short stay there, we made our way to the UK and then deeper into Europe and eventually into Spain.
Wow. So tell me something. Just give us just kind of a brief 30-second overview on John's reluctance or refusal to pay taxes to the IRS.
When he came back to America, that was when so John had been living in Belize before I met him. And I believe he had been there for about 5 years before I met him when he was deported back. And when he came back to America, And 2012, he had decided that he wasn't going to pay taxes anymore. That was just it. That was just his hard stance on that. And his reasoning was because he felt like he had paid enough taxes. He had paid
50 million?
about over 50 million in his lifetime, up until that. And so he felt like he had paid enough, and he, was very adamant of the fact that income tax is unconstitutional. And so that was just his stance.
Right.
And he wasn't
So,
gonna,
okay. Wow. Yeah. I mean, gosh, did John McAfee get $50 million in government services or benefits? I don't know.
No, not at all.
I
That
bet.
was a bit of the frustration as well, that he didn't get,
Yeah.
the equivalent services. So
Wow. That's a huge amount of money because he's the famous guy behind the McAfee virus software that he later didn't think too much about.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that tends to happen, once the founder is no longer involved with the company, it tends to go the way of the board, and that's not always the best for the customers. So yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Man, he was a guy with a great sense of humor. It must be hard. I've been through your journey before, having lost my better half a long time ago. So I don't know. It's not easy, right? The understatement of the year.
It's extremely difficult. Especially everyone has their ideas of what they think happened, and everyone has their opinions about who they think he was, and so it is difficult to try to grieve at the same time as try to get answers to what happened to him, and the answers only bringing more questions,
Sure.
and
Yeah, and now I understand that his body was kept in cold storage in Barcelona, right?
yes.
So now they did it. They did an autopsy. They claimed it was suicide. His death happened hours after the Spanish National Court had ruled that he would be extradited to the United States. Did he know that he was being extradited, or is it something he suspected, or what?
It was suspected by all of us, by myself, by John. At the time, he had 5 attorneys. He had 2 Spanish attorneys, 2 U.S. attorneys, and an attorney in the U.K. And so these were, all working in tandem to provide him the best opportunity to be represented properly in this case. And so we all understood that that extradition was going to happen. It was not a surprise to any of us. We were prepared for that. There was a strategy in place for what the next steps would be after that. So it definitely was not a shock or surprise to him. It was expected.
And how bad was the Spanish prison? I know the one in the Dominican Republic was really bad. Just mosquitoes feasting on you day and night.
Yeah, it was there, but from what he shared with me, it wasn't it wasn't terrible. He made friends, I guess. He spoke Spanish, not fluently, but enough to get by. The a lot of the prisoners and the guards were surprised that he was in there because they had him like in general population. So he wasn't in a secluded area or in a special, rich guy prison. No, he was in there with everyone else, and they were shocked that he was there. They gave him a nickname, Papa America.
Papa America, wow.
Yeah, he said that they, kind of looked out for him, because again, they knew who he was, obviously, and they were just surprised that he was in there. So people kind of just naturally took to him, and wanted to look out.
They felt sorry for him, right? They felt like it was unfair, unjust that he had been put in there, and they watched out for him. They're like big brothers, or little brothers.
Yeah,
he's one of the oldest inmates,
little
right?
Big brothers, big little brothers. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So amazing. Now, among fueling conjecture and thoughts that it was not a suicide, the fact that his attorney spoke to him, say he didn't have any suicide markers, or same with you, right? You spoke to. Did you speak to him the day he died?
Yeah, if I can say
Sure,
this
please.
as well. So I spoke with him every day. When he got into once he was inside and I was able to get he was able to make phone calls, so I spoke to him every day, 3 times a day. Our phone calls
Wow.
were 8 minutes apiece, and so I spoke to him twice that day. And before I get into that, let me just say, when I went to the prison,
Sure.
because I had to go to the prison to pick up his belongings, I spoke with the gentleman who was like the head over all of the guards, and he said that they were all shocked and surprised at what happened. None of them suspected anything like this. They said when John came back from court, he was his same usual self, talking, making conversation with people, making jokes, because that's just how he was. And so
Yeah.
there was no
It's a fun guy,
notable
right?
difference. Yeah, there was no notable difference in his demeanor and his behavior after hearing this news of going to be extradited, right? And so I spoke to him in the morning before he went to court, and we kind of just went over, we're going to expect that they probably will grant the extradition. Hopefully they won't, but we know that they probably will, and I spoke to the attorneys yesterday, just letting him know I had spoken to the attorneys, what they had said, what the plan was. And so that was like the regular conversation. And when he came back,
Right.
I spoke to him again in the afternoon for
Yeah.
lunchtime, around lunchtime, which is around 11ish, between 11 and 12,
Yeah.
um, Spain time. And he was disappointed, obviously. And but there was no shift in who he was in the conversation. It was the same regular conversations like we had always had. And the last thing he said to me was that I will, I love you and I'll call you later, because we had,
Oh, wow.
one more phone call. So definitely not sounding
Doesn't
at
make
all,
sense.
like, and then on top of that, what they said was the suicide note, which John, when he was there were tweets coming out on his account on his Twitter account. They were his tweets given to me, and I was getting them tweeted. So that note that they found to me read like a tweet, something he would have tweeted. Did it sound a little sad or down? Of course, he's in prison. Wasn't always going to be a happy guy and joking and all of that. Not all the time. Um, so that's what it read to me. And honestly, my thoughts is that if he did this to himself, right? If he just
Yeah.
couldn't take it anymore and he just had to end it all, he would have
Right.
left something more profound than what they said was that suicide note, right? Because he would have had hours to think
Right.
about
Of
it, to
course.
think about what he wanted to say, what he wanted to share,
Of
and
course.
to come up with that, it's just not. But and I'm
Yeah.
just playing devil's advocate a little
Sure.
bit
No,
there, because
that's perfectly reasonable.
I don't believe at all that he
Yeah.
committed suicide. I don't.
So
So
let me ask you a question, Janice, because I didn't determine. So you last spoke to him about 11:30 Spanish time in the
yeah,
morning.
11 and 12. Yeah.
Okay. And what time was his body discovered? Lifeless.
It was he actually, first of all, and let's clear this up as well. He
Sure.
wasn't found dead in his cell. He was alive. They found him tied to the window, to the bars of his window. He still had a pulse. He was breathing. So they took him into the hallway and performed CPR on him. So he was not found dead in his cell.
Okay.
Um, and and It was about 5, 6-ish, I think it was. I think that's what I remember
Right.
the report saying. And I think that's about the time that the news had come out, and it was, all over the internet that he had died. And that's actually how I found out that he
Wow.
was dead. I didn't get a phone call from the prison, neither did my attorney. We all found out. I found out through Twitter. Someone sent me a Twitter DM, and I just saw the notification, and it said, "Oh, OMG, tell me this isn't true." And immediately my heart sank, because I don't know how, I just knew.
It's amazing how they got out,
I
but
did a Google
you
search,
were
but it was intentional the way that it got out. that they went to the press first. They didn't go to his attorney. They had his phone number. The prison had my phone number,
Of
which you
course.
would think they would notify at least his attorney, if not, me. But
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. So then normally, he would write on a piece of paper a tweet, and you'd write. Well, wait. Well, I
yeah,
mean,
he would
wait, did
because
you
he
see
would
him in
read it
court?
to me.
Oh, he reads it. Of course, yeah.
He would read
Silly
the
me.
tweet to me. Yeah, and not
Right.
come off of it. It wasn't just something he thought of in the time because it was only 8 minutes our phone calls. So
Yeah, it's
he would
not too
come and
long.
read the tweet. We'd do that first, and then maybe we'd chit chat a little bit. Um, and that's how
Wow.
that went. Yeah.
So then, okay. So then, did they find a note with that tweet, or
No, they only said that they found this. Well, I'm saying that it's a tweet, right? And they have their
yeah?
own theories. They're saying that it's a suicide note, but to me, it didn't read that way. And they said they found it in his pocket, which again, I'm not sure. That just seems really convenient, which it's possible because it's possible he might have wanted me to tweet that out later on our third phone call.
Yeah.
Um, but something that was curious is that all of the writings that I would have expected to find, like tweets, like the tweets that I know that he had read to me, and none of that was a part of his belongings. He was in there for like 9 months. He would have wrote something. He would have had
Right. Of
letters
course.
from people, things. There was nothing. None of his personal effects in that way were given to me. And so that's another strange thing as well, because I feel like um, that would have told a story as well, of us
Yeah.
of his state of mind, and I think to not have that information, maybe they felt like it. Well, okay, I won't speculate.
Oh,
I don't
sure.
believe that he committed suicide. That's just how I
Right.
feel, and
That,
not even how I feel. It's just what was in their report so the prison opened an investigation immediately into John's death, and which was strange because it had already been reported all over the news that he died by suicide. So why is the prison opening an
yeah. Really.
investigation?
It's
But
like they're trying to put a spin on it from the first second.
yeah, so but in this investigative report, they they let it be known that CPR was performed on John while he still had this shoestring noose tied around his neck. And so you cannot perform CPR on someone and expect them to live if they have a noose tied around their neck. You just can't do that, right?
Of course.
And so that's what happened to John, and that's why he's dead. Okay.
Wow.
Now
So
how
yeah.
he
Go ahead.
got into the situation, how he got tied up and all of that, I'm not here to argue about any of that or
Yeah.
even
Sure.
speculate on that. But what it says
Right.
in their report is that CPR was performed on him while he still had this shoestring noose around his neck, and he's dead.
Right.
So that's what
Wow.
happened to him, and that's why I believe they kept his body for so long, and why they won't release the autopsy report.
So they still haven't released the autopsy report to you.
No, no. They've refused.
Right.
I appealed, and that's what took so long, because while the appeals were happening, they refused to release his body as well. So it was almost as if they were punishing me because I was daring to ask for this autopsy report, because
Wow.
there was no reason for them to keep his body. They didn't need to keep his body. They had already did what they did their autopsy. There was no need for them to keep his body almost 3 years.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah, it was only
it's
like
an
last, what is it,
insane amount of
last
time.
2 months that they released his body? 2 months ago?
Yeah, just December. Yeah.
Wow. So just wondering, so that alleged suicide note that was found in his pocket, has that been turned over to you, or is it still being held?
No, I don't have that either.
So are they going to turn over any his personal effects, or have they done it partially, or what?
They've done it partially. So what he had in the prison, that I've gotten those belongings already, but I feel like there's a lot of things that were missing. And mostly just the writings, his writings, which I would have expected. Also, he had, mail that came to him, which that
A
wasn't
lot
a
of mail,
part of
right?
his belonging. Yeah, and that wasn't a part of it as either. So,
Right.
strange.
So, wow. So how, you're in Barcelona, or whereabouts are you?
No, I'm in the south. I'm further south, closer to Valencia.
Okay, right. Now, I lived in Spain for a while, in
Yeah.
Malaga and in Madrid, and
Okay.
wow. So, oh, what an incredible ordeal you've been through. And since Uncle Sam wanted his money, you
Yeah.
know, are they respecting your rights as spouse to? I don't know if he ever filed for Social Security or not. You know.
I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. Once I get back to America, which will be soon,
Okay.
then those things can move forward, I guess. But I also should say that well, I guess I don't need to say that, but yeah, I will be returning to America soon, this year, which I'm very much looking forward to, this chapter being over, although it's still not easy. It's still very difficult, but now I feel like I can actually start the grieving process, because I have his body, has been cremated, that all the things that needed to be done have been done. And what happens with the future as far as, this situation, I don't know, but I'm going to leave it open, or leave myself open to the idea of maybe coming back and, and fighting this again, because it's not right what they did to him, you know?
Yeah, it's really not right. And he looked healthy, don't you think? Right? He was healthy.
Yeah, he did. He had gained a lot of weight, so he lost a lot of it in prison. And and it had taken its toll on him physically. I will say that, because he had bad knees, and he had a torn Achilles tendon that never healed properly. So, um, but he was strong, you know. He wasn't a frail 75 year
No,
old.
he
No, he
seemed
was
like I saw the,
strong.
the interview. The interview.
Yeah.
There was an interview that you did with him. I don't know what year it was. I remember
Okay.
that he said he had. He was always joking around. He said, "Hey, you look like a drummer," and then he wanted to bring you into the interview. What year was that interview?
I'm not sure which one you're referring to,
It was.
but the
Let
one
me just
that
look and see. Let me see, Janice, if I can switch. Well, you know what I'll do? I'll go on my laptop, and it was a funny interview. And he looked great, man. He looked like he was 60, but he was a lot older, I think, right? So let me see
yeah,
here. John McAfee. Oh no, I actually found this by looking at Janice McAfee. I think
okay.
McAfee interview, and oh yeah, this is it. The It was 576,000 views 2 years ago. This is like final interview before his death. Um, and Glastic, you know.
Gnostic. Okay. Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
So did John, now you were talking with him on the phone. Did
Yeah.
you have did you have in-person visits with him as well, or no?
No, he didn't want me to visit him for security purposes. There was just a concern that I could be followed back, from the prison, and then also because he felt that he just didn't want me to see him in prison, and he just felt it would be difficult for him, for both of us to see him, that way. So no,
Yeah.
I didn't see him in person, although I could have, but for those reasons, I didn't.
So right, and so he was his the jail where all this took place was in Barcelona, or which town?
Yes, Barcelona, just outside of Barcelona.
Wow, amazing. So now, can I ask you a question? How are you getting by? You getting
Um,
Did
well, I
he
had
leave?
some
Did he have it?
savings. I had some
Yeah.
savings. No, he didn't. So this is another reason. Well, anyways, so
Whatever money they
he had
want his money.
crypto.
What's that?
He had crypto. He did have crypto, but while he was in prison, his wallets were emptied, and so that was another
Wow.
big issue. Because when he got arrested, his phones were with him. So
He
maybe
was
someone
hacked.
got access to his phones while he was in prison or something. But I had, some crypto that he had given me that had, obviously went up in value. And so I used that for his attorneys, paying some of his attorney fees, and then the rest, just
Wow.
living here. And so, but I have a job, I'm working, which is good. I'm doing in-home care for an elderly woman. So I'm getting by. Yeah.
Thank God. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. Wow. And five attorneys. It must have been like cost
Yeah.
a
Well,
bundle.
because there was the income tax charge that was out of Tennessee. Then the SEC came along with their charges out of New York. So he had um, a U.S. attorney for each of those cases. And then he had
Wow.
initial Spanish attorney that his friends had gotten him, the friends we were staying with, but he was not as well not as knowledgeable as we would have liked for him to be about extradition. So we got an additional attorney who that was kind of his expertise, and as well as dealing with America as far as extraditions go. So that's where the second Spanish attorney came in, and then the UK attorney because he had dual citizenship, so he was American and
That that,
UK citizen.
that that must have just like devastated his estate,
Um,
or let's say, or the
we were able to get reasonable attorneys who were reasonable with their fees. So, um, but no, it definitely devastated funds for sure.
wow. So then, are you in any legal issues yourself because you were a
Not
spouse, or
not
because of
that
the
I'm
fact that
aware
you?
of. Well, okay. Well, I guess now I should mention it. Yes, we were married. However, we did divorce before we left America, but we continued our relationship after that. So, um, I don't know. I don't know if there will be things that will have to deal with when I get back to America. I don't think so. I think any issues that I would have had were only because we were married. And if I would have stayed in America and didn't leave America with him, then possibly I could have had problems as a means for them to getting to me by getting to him, in order to get to him, I should say. Right. So, but outside of that, I don't think I will have any problems. But again, I'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, you would hope that since he paid such a boatload of money into the Social Security trust fund in quotes because it's a joke. It's just a huge pile of money that politicians
Yes.
just take for whatever they want and give you
Mhm.
IOUs for. So yeah, I mean, I would hope that you'd be able to have access to that, even, regardless of whether or not John filed for Social Security. I would think. Yeah, I mean, a guy like a high roller like John, he probably didn't. Social Security is like a joke for a guy like him. You would, yeah, but who knows? Maybe he filed. Maybe he filed.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he filed,
Yeah.
and hopefully you can file for that and get access to it because he paid so much money into the system that you, as a surviving spouse, has every right to a portion of that. Because my understanding is that when somebody who's receiving Social Security passes away, that their surviving spouse inherits it. But I don't know.
Mhm.
Anyway, but well. Listen, Janice, you've been through so much. Um, your website. And by the way, when I was doing this, hold on, I was doing your intro. I don't think did. I mention your website. Goodness gracious, I've been remiss. I have to. I think I missed doing that. I got so excited in the intro. Uh,
Um,
yeah, because yes, your website is www.logiaonfire.com.
Yeah.
www.logia, two G's, on
Yeah.
fire.com.
You could
Go
also
ahead.
find I have some writings there, but you can also find some of John's writings there.
Really?
They did kind of our blog posts. It's a blog,
Oh,
a
cool.
friend of ours website, and we use that to post blogs and things. So I have a few there. John had a few there, and it's yeah, he has one
Yes.
there where he was talking about his trip to Nepal, his adventures in Nepal. And so I would suggest anyone, if you have the time to read those. They're
Uh-huh.
really interesting. Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. So you took your Odyssey traveling, took you from what, Tennessee, or where were you live when you were with John in the United States? Where were you living?
So we met in Miami, and
Yeah.
we from there we moved and lived in Portland for a few months. Then we lived in Colorado Springs, Colorado, for a little bit, and we spent the majority of our time in Tennessee, about 4 years, and then from Tennessee we went to Hatteras Island in North Carolina, and that was the last place that we lived. We lived in a house called the Love Boat on Hatteras Island. It was awesome. It was awesome.
How long were you in Hatteras Island?
Not long, maybe 6 months.
And so of all those places, you liked Hatteras Island, I guess, the best?
I like the house, Hatteras Island. Yes. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. Maybe if you see it, you could probably find it online. But the
Yeah.
house, the name of the house, the Love Boat, and it was built like a boat, kind of, and so it was really cool, really
Well, it
cool.
wasn't a
And
boat, was it? It was really a real house, right?
no, it was a house, but they called it the Love Boat. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a really
And
cool
from
place.
there, right.
Yeah.
So from there, basically what you went from there, you went to Belize, then to Cuba, or went directly to Cuba, or what?
No, no, no. I've never been to Belize. So from Hatteras Island, John had purchased a boat that was being fixed up during the time while we were living in Hatteras Island. And so by the time January came around, the boat was ready to go, which was named the Freedom Boat, aptly named, by the way. And from there, we took the boat from Miami, and went into the Bahamas, and from the Bahamas to Cuba, then Cuba to the Dominican Republic.
Wow. So what happened to the Freedom Boat? Did they seize it?
Um, no, we ended up selling it. We ended up selling it a few years back. Well, obviously before John went to prison, so um,
Right.
we were able to do that.
Right. So then you ended up flying. Was it from the DR? You flew after you were released from jail. You flew to the UK from the DR, right?
To the UK, yes. We stayed there. Luckily, we were released on a Friday, so when we got to the UK, it was still Friday, and we stayed there Friday and Saturday, and we left Sunday morning, so that because obviously there's a close relationship between the UK and America, so
Right.
we had to be gone before Monday morning when all of the government official offices would have been open and they would have known that we were there and would have gotten all the paperwork needed to
Extradite.
legally apprehend him. Yeah. So,
So you flew out
yeah.
of London, or did you take the ferry
We
across the
didn't,
channel? Or?
no, we didn't fly. No, we didn't fly. We took the train out. Took the train out.
The channel. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing experience. So when
Yeah, it
you go
was.
back, where are you gonna live when you go back? Florida or somewhere else?
Oh, no, no. My family's in California. So I'm from California originally, from the Bay Area. So
Oh
that's where
man.
I will be
So
headed back to.
how long have you been out of the Bay Area?
Um, wow, out of the Bay Area for years, actually. For a
I
lot
think
of
it's
years. I
changed.
would go
My
and
brother
visit.
lives in yeah.
Where's your
My
brother?
my brother's in Orinda, and he teaches in
Okay.
Oakland. Teaches in
Okay.
Oakland, and San Francisco has gotten to be notoriously just horrible,
Yeah. It's
disgusting.
not.
It's just. I don't know how bad it was like when you last went there, but everybody tells me it's absolutely third world disgusting. It's worse than third world.
It was headed downhill the last time, I was there, which would have been December of 2018.
Oh
And
wow,
so,
yeah, that was pretty
yes,
bad then, but I think it's just
yeah.
getting worse. It just became it's like an open insane asylum.
Wow.
And yeah, and well, I mean, I haven't been there, but I've been to, my son, two of my kids were stationed in the military in California, and
Okay.
so I've seen L.A., but I've never seen San Francisco. And it's too bad it was a pretty city that went south.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
What a bummer, man! It is an incredible city. So let me ask you a question. I mean, in passing, I mean, since John went from McAfee virus protection to eventually got into cryptocurrency, what were his thoughts about cryptocurrency? Which ones to go for? And if Janice McAfee had to endorse a cryptocurrency, come up with a McAfee coin,
So
Did he have a favorite?
John, well, his ghost coin is probably, and also his whacked coin. So those were some things that he
Wax
was
coin?
working on. Yeah, whacked was one he
Wow.
was working on, as well as ghost coin. These were coins he was working on before he died. So, or before he went to prison, I should say.
Did they actually get launched?
Yes, yes, they have gotten
How are they doing?
launched.
How are they doing?
I haven't looked into them, but yeah, I haven't looked into them, but they're hanging on. I
Yeah,
think,
let me just, yeah, go ahead. Ghost coin. Let me just Google it. Let me see. Just curious. I'm curious. Ghost
it's
coin.
doing a lot better. It's doing a lot better, and there's a lot of work now that's going into it since John has passed
Wow.
recently.
What does it say? Ghost price today. Let me see here what it says. It mentions John. Let me see here. It went, oh, it looks like 11 cents. Okay. And it's gone up 2.17% in the past day. Wow. Amazing. There's a ghost community. Wait, I wonder how Whacked is doing. Let's see how Whacked
Yeah,
is doing. The Whacked coin. Gosh, man. This is funny. I mean, here it's an ongoing online commercial Whacked coin. And let's see how that's doing. Okay. Live coin price, charts, markets, liquidity. Okay, this is a lot less. This is like
yeah.
a 2/10 of a cent.
Hmm.
But it went up. It looks like it's gone up 2.29%. Oh, interesting. So I mean, how can you go wrong? You buy 1,000 of them and it's just
Well, he was interested in just creating. I think with Ghost was meant to be an entire ecosystem of being able to have a decentralized cryptocurrency and a decentralized exchange, so that people could have the freedom to spend their money as they saw fit. And that's why he loved cryptocurrencies, and why he thought they were the future. They were going to be the future, and he advocated greatly for them. And he was involved with a lot of different crypto projects. Not all of them did well, obviously. He was just an
yeah,
advisor with these projects. And so, the people that ran the project could either take his advice or not. And sometimes they didn't. And the project suffered from it. But his passion was to help build the community, to help build um, I don't know, I guess build interest in people wanting to
yeah,
use cryptocurrency, because for him, again, he saw it as a way of having total
independence.
freedom,
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
from the government and their prying eyes, and so he's very excited to see how it would grow. And I wonder what he would have to say about the CBDCs and all of how crypto has been heading, and I think something that the space suffers from is that we haven't been able to figure out how to onboard the normies, if you will, the masses, people that don't understand what cryptocurrency is and how it works.
Sure.
There's we haven't found a way to simplify it so that they can make it easy for them to onboard, so
How did
maybe that
what
will
just
come in the future.
I'm just curious, when you were in Europe, was it easy to cash in crypto or
It's not
complicated?
it's not very difficult. There's a lot of places. Barcelona has a lot of different exchanges that you can use. Obviously being further south, it's a little more difficult, but you can go to exchanges and use them. Obviously, there's not a lot of places that accept crypto, Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever cryptocurrency. So that's also the difficulty, is that it's supposed to be used as a currency, but there's not a lot of places where you can use it as such.
Right. And by the way, back in, well, what year was this? 2019, maybe. John granted an interview to Patrick Bet-David. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about it, because I know Patrick. We're friends.
He came to our house actually, in Tennessee. He did
Wow.
an
So, and that
he
was
did an
really intense.
in-person. But that was, I want to say that was not 2019, that because we were in North Carolina at the time. So we were living in Tennessee when that Patrick
2018,
that
maybe.
interview happened. Yeah, he came to our house with his production team. And John did what he always did, which was, he told the security, make sure you guys, rough them up a little bit and go through their go through their stuff. He loves messing with people like that. So he did that all the time. And so just to freak people out. And it worked beautifully, as always.
So he knew how to. It was like a routine that he did,
Yeah.
like a joke,
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, go through their stuff and yeah, all
Hassle
the time.
them, and
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the security people had AR-15s out and were
Yeah.
yelling and
Yeah. Well,
screaming up against the wall.
they're all
Huh?
ex-military, so you can imagine how intimidating they could be. So it's good
Wow.
time. Good
And by the
times.
way, this is one thing I want to remember. So, but how did John react to that interview later on about the Patrick Bit? What did he say about it? Did he like
Um,
it? Was it one more
I think
interview or what?
no. I think he enjoyed it because it went on for it was a pretty long interview. I don't know if it all aired, but John was very gracious with his time with him. And usually
Yeah.
when that happens, it's because he feels comfortable. He feels like he can, I won't say let his hair down, but not let his hair down, but just speak, without being
Yeah, he feels
interrupted,
comfortable
without
sharing.
being, yeah. So I will say that. And I think he did enjoy the interview. I think he enjoyed, because he doesn't always, or he didn't always enjoy being interviewed, because the people asking questions would kind of, ask all the same things and want something more of a sensationalized John, that sort of,
Yeah.
um,
He-
I don't
yeah,
know.
Patrick.
Yeah.
I think Patrick wanted to put him at ease and let him talk and open up. And
Yeah.
he's a businessman. Came from nothing and became a multimillionaire. He's now based in Florida. Um, but wow. So and the dogs. Goodness gracious, what happened to your puppies?
Oh, my doggos. So they came with us when we left America because we could do that. And we were in ports, so they were able to get off the boat and take them to the beach and have fun and all the things. So anyways, the dogs eventually made it back to America because they were in the Dominican Republic. So they were kind of in jail as well.
Oh
Someone
boy.
actually graciously had taken them to their shelter and kept them until we could have someone come from America and pick them up. And that happened. So we had two German Shepherds. They were brother and sister. And we had a pit bull and a Commodore. And so when they got back to America, the pit bull got into a fight with the Commodore, and he ended up dying from those wounds. They were fighting over
Wait,
food.
the pit bull or the Commodore?
The Commodore died. So the pit bull attacked the Commodore, and he died from his wounds. And then the pit
Oh,
bull died a month later. I'm assuming from a broken heart, because that was her pack mate, the Commodore.
yeah, they were
Um, but
friends.
but food for her is just, was a trigger. And she used to be a fight dog. So, when she locked in, she would lock in, and
Yeah, she
there
was
would be,
strong.
so anyway.
How do the German
And then the
Shepherds
German
and the pit
Shepherds,
bull
well,
get along
they
with
got
the pit
along
bull?
really well, actually. Well, because they were puppies when we got them. So they grew up with the other two dogs, and they got along well. But the pit bull she was the alpha, right? So she was the
Yeah,
boss.
the
Everybody knew
boss.
she was the boss. Yeah. So they, they yielded to her bossness.
Boss. Yeah.
And so one of the German shepherds, the girl, she was actually murdered in
Oh,
Tennessee,
terrible.
not long after John went to prison. And so there's just the one German Shepherd now, Axel, and I hope to be reunited with him when I get back to
Oh,
America.
wow.
So,
So that's the dog. So okay.
so that's the
So is
dog.
Axel
Yeah.
now in California?
No, he's in Tennessee right now. He's been in Tennessee with friends. So, um,
Wow.
I'm hoping, like I said, to be reunited with him. I hope he
Yeah.
remembers me. It's been 5 years.
Oh no,
So,
they will. I think they will. I mean, I had my we had I live in Peru, and my daughter's boyfriend gave her a pit bull, a
okay,
Staffordshire, a mix
okay,
between a Staffy and an American Bully, supposedly, and
okay.
cute little black dog. Oh, so cute. And like it was like 2 months old, and just so precious. And so at one point, because I mean we're Americans, and so my two boys were in the military, and then my
Mm,
other son and my daughter, they went to be with the son in Omaha, and so
okay,
then they sent for the dog, Malta.
okay,
And so Malta went, and it cost like over $3,000. And then and Malta was thrilled. And then I came
mm,
about, I don't know, maybe 6 months later or so. And then she remembered me. And of course, she was going crazy, running around, jumping on me, then going back around and jumping on me again. So I bet she'll probably remember you.
okay.
They're great. It sounds like a beautiful dog. Too bad
Yeah,
you lost the other ones. Goodness gracious. So, although they're a handful, you know, you gotta walk
yeah,
them. You know,
yeah. We had I think our time traveling, like the Bahamas, I think they really loved the dogs. I'm saying it, loved
yeah,
what
right.
because I would take them and let them be on the beach. They could dig and play and do all the things that dogs love to do. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, play around, look for bones, bury the bones.
yeah.
Wow. So do you think you're gonna miss Spain?
No.
Really?
I've made friends here now within the last year of my being here, so I will miss them. But I won't miss it here. I will look back on John and I, John and I, mine and John's time together here before he went to prison. I will look back on that very fondly because it was a good time
Yeah.
we didn't have the craziness, it was just me and John and Janice, just living
Yeah.
and it was really peaceful and we really got to know each other better, which is what I think we were always meant to do. But because of life and all the craziness of our living
Yeah.
situation, we didn't
And
have that. So
right. So when you were in Spain, when John was not incarcerated, were you in the Barcelona area or
yeah,
South Spain or where?
yeah, but Barcelona area. And
Ah,
then we would
fantastic.
travel. We went to Germany and we were in Italy. So we did like a little road trip, a European road trip as well.
Uh-huh.
And but we were mostly in the Barcelona area, and it was really nice. We would go out and we had bikes. We'd ride our bikes, along the Paseo with our security, or we had scooters, the electric scooters. That was
Uh-huh.
really fun.
Oh yeah, I bet.
We'd go to, sushi was his favorite food, so we would go out to restaurants. We just, we're relaxing, we're able to
Yeah,
just relax
sure.
and live.
And so being that he was a pretty famous guy. I mean, were you constantly mobbed with people wanting to shake
No,
hands and
no, people knew who he was, but they respected his space. Um, and I guess that only happened when he went to do talks. So when he did a lot of keynote speaking at different conferences, and I wouldn't say that he got mobbed, but definitely people wanted autograph or to
the
take a
rock
picture
star?
or to speak to
Pictures
him.
with the
So
rock star.
yeah, he did a lot of that, but he enjoyed it a lot. He enjoyed talking to people. That was kind of the favorite part or the favorite time after these talks was being able to talk with people one-on-one and to just share with them, share space with them. So he really enjoyed that.
Wow, well, that's just a fascinating story. May he rest in peace. It's a shame that it seemed like he had a man with a vitality that would carry him into the 90s, because he was so, he's just so full of energy and funny and life of the party type of guy. Oh, well, folks, check out Janice's website, www.loggiaonfire.com. That's LOGGIA on fire.com. www.loggiaonfire.com. And Janice McAfee, it's been great having you on the show. Have you written a book yet? You should.
A book is coming in the future, yes, for sure.
You must write a book. And is there a movie in the works too?
I'm not sure. I know that there was going to be a documentary based off of the book. Oh, I don't know if you have read the book.
No, I have not.
The John McAfee tapes. You should read that. It's a really good book. No Domain is what it's called, and it's the John McAfee tapes. And John had did, I think, a few months of interviews with the author because he was going to. He was wanting an autobiography written, but it turned out differently because John passed away. And anyway, so this book is written with those words, with the words that were shared, John shared from those recordings. So it's a really good book. I would suggest you guys read it if you haven't. No Domain is what it's called. And so there's supposed to be, I've heard there's talks of a documentary or a movie based off of that book that should be happening in the future. So, so definitely the John McAfee story is not over. There's more to tell of it, and that will happen in the future for sure.
Great. Well, look, it's fantastic, Janice. Thanks again for having me on Quorum Radio. Much obliged, and Godspeed to you. Hope everything goes great on your return to America and to see your German Shepherd again. So that's hopefully that'll be great. That'll be a lot of fun. Well, listen, Godspeed to you, and hope we can hear from you again.
Yes.
Other developments in the John McAfee chapters.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Janice. Thank you. Much obliged. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.